Curious about which desserts were showstoppers in every state in the 1970s? Set the table for 50 delicious treats that remind us how unique each state's taste is. Though a thing of the past now, great taste never dies. So let's visit each state, one dish at a time. Lane cake gets its name from Emma Rylander, who struck gold with this white sponge cake because it became a staple of Alabama's diet. That's where it gets its name from too, and its secret kick, the whiskey, was a fan favorite all across the state. She showed up one day with this cake to a county fair in Clayton, Alabama, won first prize, and the rest, as they say, is history. Did you know it was also once the official cake of Alabama? Prickly pear sorbets, a refreshing sorbet made from prickly pear cactus fruit. These cactuses exclusively grow in South America and have long been a proud staple of Southern and, in particular, Mexican culture. They even have it on their flag, and for good reason. If you tried this, you'd be just as crazy about it. It's a fruit sorbet with just the right amounts of tropical goodness and sweetness. Possum pie is an Arkansas favorite, a layered dessert with chocolate pudding, cream cheese, and whipped cream. As good as it sounds, the story of how it made its claim to fame is just as much of a delight. In a 1974 newspaper, this pie swept the competition, and it wouldn't stop making headlines after either. In the Arkansas Gazette, a dish called possum pie randomly popped up and got a review in around the 1980s. Imagine stumbling upon a pie so good, the rest of your city can't shut up about it either. Californian raisin cookies, soft cookies filled with sweet raisins. They got pretty popular due to an ad agency called Foot, Cone, and Belding, which ran a commercial at the time which helped these cookies gain a lot of momentum. Since then, they've become a part of California culture, and any local will delightfully tell you childhood memories of them. Rocky Mountain chocolate fudge is one of the sweetest scoops of ice cream you might try. This delectable, rich, and creamy chocolate fudge owes its success to Rocky Mountain Chocolate, which is an international brand that makes some of Colorado's finest Rocky Mountain tubs. You'll find outlets everywhere, but the best ice cream has to be where the company's based in Durango. This has been a favorite of children across every state, and if you're visiting as a tourist, you need to grab yourself some. Apple cider donuts took Connecticut by storm. At first, just spiced donuts made with fresh apple cider. It turned into something incredible when Harlem baker Adolph Levitt and a bright-eyed engineer met by chance. They got to making a system that could cut the work of making donuts in less than a half time, making apple cider donuts a marvel in the 1970s. Peach ice cream is one of the few reasons to have an extended stay in Delaware. Homemade ice cream made with fresh peaches. Though ice cream freezers make this job a lot easier than it used to be, back in the days of Lettuce Bryan, you had to do it all by hand. Manually mixing the ice cream did take 10 times longer, but it also led to some incredibly vivid and flavorful ice cream, the kind Delaware would eventually become known for across every state. Key lime pie is a creamy pie made in Florida from readily available key lime juice. Having a historical connection with Florida, the pie is usually made with egg yolks, condensed sweetened milk, or an optional meringue topping made from egg whites. If you feel real fancy, you can add some whipped cream too. The limes used tend to grow in Key West, Florida, hence the association. Peach cobbler from Georgia's a summer delight, a warm, sweet dessert made with fresh peaches and a biscuit-like topping. When English settlers first reached American colonies, the military men might have gone on making plans and whatnot, but the cooks did what they do best: innovate and improvise. Thus, peach cobbler was born. Haupia is the tropical dish to go for if you really want to get into the summer as well, especially in Hawaii. A traditional coconut milk-based Hawaiian dessert. It is incredibly popular in Polynesia for its distinct flavors and sweet notes. Huckleberry pie from Idaho made with locally sourced wild huckleberries. A match made not in heaven, but an excellent kitchen. This is an incredible mix of sugar, lemon zest and juice, grounded cinnamon, filled in a pie crust and dotted with butter and huckleberries. Brownies aren't just popular in Illinois. Fudgy, chocolatey squares that were popularized in Chicago. Do they need any introduction? Kids, adults, elders, anyone with a heartbeat the world over loves brownies, but Illinois is particularly famous for them because of their rich, dark chocolate fudge. Indiana's take on a sugar cream pie is a rich custard pie, also known as Hoosier pie. The backstory for this one is that settlers brought the recipe for this along with them, making it a mainstay custard pie for Indiana. It also doubled as the state's unofficial pie in the 1970s. As more pies came into the market, this one lost its appeal to the people. Dutch letters became an Iowa staple quickly. Pastry filled with almond paste, shaped into letters. Dutch refugees took to baking and created this in Pella, Iowa. Fun regional fact: these Dutch letters are actually a pretty common and beloved treat at the Tulip Festival in Pella. They were even sold at markets, gas stations, and more. German chocolate cake in Kansas go a ways back. A rich chocolate cake with coconut pecan frosting. The name comes from its inventor, Samuel German, and he actually made this a unique take on a chocolate cake with his dark baking chocolate formula. Modern recipes usually tend to go for a bitter, savory dark chocolate, but this recipe is traditionally made with sweet chocolate. How do you prefer yours? Savory or beyond sweet? The Darby pie emerged in Kentucky in the 70s. A chocolate and walnut tart created by Leodra and Walter Kern in Prospect, Kentucky at the Melrose Inn. This has become somewhat of a legacy for the state because to this day, Kern's Kitchen guards the secret recipe better than KFC ever did theirs. The delicious taste and secrecy around the recipe allows for this 70s classic to remain relevant today. Beignets may be the most famous 70s treat in Louisiana, but it was not their own creation. These deep-fried donuts dusted with powdered sugar were a marvel when they were first introduced in the 70s. While Louisiana might be known for these, the concept itself came from 18th century France, which then found its first whiff of American soil when the French brought the recipe to New Orleans. Blueberry pie doesn't hit the same unless it's from Maine. A pie made with wild Maine blueberries, which actually was created in Scandinavia, though the very first blueberry pie recipe was found in cookbooks dating back to the 1970s. When you think of this, imagine contrasting flavors all centered around maximizing the sensation and taste of sweet blueberry jam. Smith Island cake is Maryland's specialty, a multi-layered cake with chocolate frosting. This one has some historical context. Women would send these cakes with their husbands during the annual oyster harvests during autumn, and they were signs of union and bonding, serving as a reminder to the men of what they had to come to. It was a rather cute tradition in the 70s for couples to send each other this cake. Despite being called Boston cream pie, it found its fame in Massachusetts in the 70s particularly. It was a simple custard-filled cake with chocolate glaze and was a dessert fit for royalty. It was served at the Parker House's grand opening, and even today it continues to be recreated, both faithfully to the original and innovatively by talented bakers wanting to add their mark to the historic dish. Cherry pies from Michigan are in a league of their own. The culture of fruit pies began in the early 1500s. When they made their way to America, Michigan opted to perfect the cherry pie. Its popularity peaked in the 1970s when Michigan started having regular pie-making competitions. The cherry pie was a fan favorite and hence became a staple. Scotcheroos are one of the best things about Minnesota. Rice Krispies treats made with butterscotch, chocolate, and peanut butter. These are delicious butterscotch bites, which can also be chocolate or peanut butter flavored, and are meant to be taken as a side, but you could chow down a plate easily. The Mississippi mud pie actually has some regional connotations to it. A rich, chocolatey pie that got its name for its gooey texture and specifically dark color. It would remind locals of the mud banks of the Mississippi River. It was incredibly popular in the WW2 era. Would you fancy gooey butter cakes in the 1970s? Missouri had you covered. A dense, sticky cake that got its name for its incredibly gooey inner. When you slice into this, the filling just oozes out like a thick river of sweetness. It contrasts very well with the butter topping, though it was made by accident when the original baker simply got the proportions wrong. Huckleberry ice cream from Montana is a special thing. It's known for its refreshing sweet and sour notes as well as its contrasting tangy flavors, all of which center around the iconic huckleberry taste that Montana's forests are known for. Kolaches are a French invention, but Nebraska took to them pretty well. Check pastry filled with fruit or cheese. It's a sweet pastry that is characterized by the yeast dough it incorporates and the fruit that it's layered with. This was originally a cake. It's also not just Nebraska that favors this. The dish took off very well in Texas too. Basque cakes are another one from the French. A simple, dense cake that is commonplace in the North Basque regions of France, but also Nevada. A traditional Basque cake looks like a black cherry jam pastry with a double pastry layer. The maple walnut fudge in New Hampshire is otherworldly. It's a fudge made with local maple syrup and walnuts. You'll experience crunchy walnuts in every bite you take, but the creamy fudge and maple syrup will keep you coming back. Some recipes also add white chocolate chips or sweetened milk to go all out for the sweet tooths. New Jersey taffy is known across the states as the taffy. However, chewy, flavored taffy originally came from Atlantic City around New Jersey, and it would typically consist of ingredients such as sugar, cornstarch, corn syrup, water, butter, glycerin, artificial flavoring, and more. It is incredibly popular in most regions in the USA, and you will find no shortage of it in any store you walk into. Bizcochitos and New Mexico are a match made in heaven. When you think of the flavor, try to picture a shortbread but with an anise flavoring that has been dusted and sprinkled generously with cinnamon and sugar. It might not be good for your calories, but it's a Christmas treat and the holidays are definitely always for binging. When you think of New York, maybe you picture Alicia Keys' Empire State of Mind. Maybe your head goes to the Step Up movies, but your taste buds should definitely go to a classic New York cheesecake, a dense yet fluffy custard dessert that actually needs to be prepared in a water bath for it to get the right consistency. The sweet potato pie is a North Carolina classic and a year-round presence in kitchens everywhere. Why? Because it works both ways. Is it time for Thanksgiving? Do you not have a stellar pumpkin pie ready to awe the guests with? The sweet potato pie is calling your name as your ever-scrumptious savior. Maybe it's Christmas, and the eggnog this year just isn't hitting the spot. Whip this out and everybody will be leaving satisfied. Can't go wrong with a spiced-up pie with sweet potatoes. Lefse and North Dakota actually go all the way back to the 18th century. Scandinavians brought lefse over to the States, and it became a prime-time holiday treat that everyone loved to bake. Lefse really became popular in the 70s, when many households would serve this as a main dish during Thanksgiving dinners. Some of you might think of wild bucks, some of you might think of the winter soldier. But Ohio is actually called the Buckeye State not for its delicious peanut butter fudge candies, which are traditionally dipped in chocolate, but the Buckeye State because of the trees that dominate the region. The dish, on the other hand, is called a buckeye because it resembles the nuts that grow on those trees. Things have a funny way of coming full circle. Pecan pie goes back further than just Oklahoma, though the state definitely has no shortage of specialty bakeries and cafes that will serve you a killer pecan pie. It is a Thanksgiving favorite for American households. The irresistible scent of eggs, butter, fresh pecans, a thick, fragrant syrup, it's enough to make a man go mad. You might see a lot of pre-20th century variations of this, but the pie as we know it was widely accepted to be a 20th century creation exclusively. Marionberry pie with the berries picked straight out of Oregon will give your average pie a run for their money. This was the perfect blend of tangy and sweet that berry lovers were craving for in the 70s. Marionberries were not the common berries used in pies, but these newer rendition was an instant success at bakeries. Shoofly pies have a history way outside Pennsylvania. They're also known as molasses pie due to the inner molasses filling and are popular in several regions in the USA. You can expect a pretty jam-like flavor when you bite into this, with a sweet but tame crust that adds a great crunch to ease you into it. The coffee cabinet from Rhode Island isn't your average milkshake or cup of coffee. It takes the best of both worlds and makes it a caffeine hit that tastes so good you'll likely end up going way over the doctor's recommended limit. Huguenot Torte did not actually start out in South Carolina. It used to be called Ozark pudding and was first shown in a 1950 cookbook. This dish is all pecans to the center. That's probably why it got so popular in the South, with their preference for dry fruits and desserts. Kuchen might make you think of a fancy dish. It's really just the German word for cake, though, and traditionally it would be served as a double-layered pastry with a meringue topping, but you can spin this any way you'd like. In South Dakota, an assortment of dry fruits is preferred. Banana pudding is one thing, but Tennessee takes it up a notch with how creamy and rich theirs can be. If this is what you're aching for, then pick the next train or flight. You know where to go. Theirs is especially well known for the variety in wafers. Pecan pralines are a Texas favorite because they're enjoyable in every weather. The harsh, dry, sunny weather of Texas or the savage winters that follow it, you can always count on a trusty praline to set you right. Jell-O salad rings a few bells for everyone, but in Utah, they even add vegetables into the jelly mix. In the 70s, this Jell-O salad became so famous in Utah that they created separate salad bars and restaurants that allowed people to make their own Jell-O salads. Maple cream pie is usually done with the maple syrup filled inside a single-layer pastry, but in Vermont it's a bit more typical to see double or even triple layers. Of course, they compensate with a more concentrated syrup. This one really packs a punch. This chess pie plays no games with you. No special tricks, no unique historical quirks, just a simple sweet chess pie what you'd expect, executed and done to perfection. Something you'd only find in Virginia during the 70s. Apple pies made with Washington apples are known for being particularly sweet, especially if you catch them during the right time in harvest. Make sure to give it a shot at least once, and to get a double crust when you do. If their apple pies weren't already it, that crust would definitely be the state's specialty. The stack cake is a bit on the nose naming-wise. It is what it sounds like. West Virginia's specialty is a multi-layered tower of a cake with a dried filling inside, which can easily serve you and yours and also makes for the perfect dish to bring to any party. Kringles used to be the Nordlings' idea of a pretzel, but it is now Wisconsin's idea of an afternoon snack, a sweet pastry with flaky layers of sweet butter-filled dough. Wisconsin actually has a lot of Danish heritage, so it makes sense why this dish became popular there. Cowboy cookies are the perfect way to get your daily intake of oatmeal for your protein goals and spice it up so it's not the blandest thing known to man. Wyoming locals love spicing it up with some chocolate chips or nutmeg to make it more of a treat. Which state had the dessert that made your mouth water the most? Let us know in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe for more recounts of the best history has to offer.